Hello, and welcome to another edition of IIABCAL Voices. I'm your host, James Lott Jr., here on JLJ Media, working with the Big I of California. Now, the Big I of California is made up of a bunch of independent agents and brokers, but we also have business partners who we work with also to help us run our businesses smoother and help the customer out there. And this is something that's good for the customer and for the business owner, something that I talk about reinventing or inventing or doing something different outside the box. We're going to talk about that here today. And it's a very interesting, it's a preventative measure, which I haven't seen that much in the workman's comp arena. So we're going to talk to somebody who works for Kinetic, which he's based out of New York. And so I forgot, you're the CEO, aren't you?
I'm
the head cheese, you're the big dog, you're the man.
That's
It's
right,
Haytham
that's right.
Elhawary. Haytham, the man. How are
Hey
you?
James, how's it going? Thanks for inviting me here.
Yes, my pleasure. We set it up a few months ago, so I'm glad you had time today to do this. Number one, first of all, how are you doing? How's the company doing? How are things going overall?
Yeah, overall things are going great. We're a year into selling insurance, which has been a very new part of our business, and it's been very exciting. As a kid, you don't dream of selling insurance, but
You know,
it's been an interesting journey.
well, how did you get to the insurance? We all come from somewhere else, and so how
Yeah.
did you get into the insurance field?
Yeah, that's true. Everyone sort of has a story about how they got
Yeah,
into
they
insurance, right?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, so with us, really, I mean, just to take just a little bit step back. So I'm one of the co-founders of Kinetic, and I started the company in 2014. So it's been a while now. And really, I started the company with sort of the mission of, hey, how could we prevent injuries from happening in the workplace? And in a way, the inspiration of that is my mother's a nurse. I grew up with her, and she would get injured a lot during her career. And it's mostly like, moving patients,
Yes,
picking up
yes.
equipment.
Yeah.
And so, I just saw how much that affects your personal life. And so for me, the engineer in me was like, hey, there's got to be ways we can prevent these injuries. And so I've always had that at the back of my head. And really in 2014, I met my co-founder, who's sort of a technical wizard. and
Oh, wow.
um, and we got together and really we started building wearable technology to help reduce injuries. And so that's really how we started. And for a number of years, we were just building the technology, selling it to large corporations who would then put it on their workers. And what we realized is that that's great for sort of large self-insured companies, but when it comes to sort of small, medium-sized businesses, the only way to reach those companies is by including it as part of insurance. And so really the realization of that just made us realize that we had to start selling workers comp, and we were going to try to do it in a very unique way, which is offering the technology for free as part of the policy.
Well, that's why we're going to get into that because I think it's very unique. We don't
Yeah.
you invent a product and also sell insurance that goes with. I mean, it's just like we don't see that very often. But I want to get back to who's your co-founder? Who are your co-founders? Let's name them.
Yeah, so Aditya Bansal, he's the CTO and my co-founder. Yeah, and he's like the classic guy that's sort of a genius, was working at IBM but was tinkering with all sorts of stuff after hours. And he was just building wearables and got very excited about that space. And so when we got together, we decided, hey, can we build a wearable technology to reduce injuries?
Yeah, I mean that is it's like people, I think when I go, why do I think of that? Like, so you feel like there's this, you found like a niche, and it's like it was sitting there just open, and like no one thought about it, but you guys thought. So you said is your background engineering? Is it engineering?
Yeah, so I'm a mechanical engineer by training. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you actually were thinking about this stuff. No, can I be seriously? Because you're thinking, well, that totally makes sense. Now here's the thing. So we have 2004, we have 2014. You got about 6 years where you could kind of grow, and then the pandemic hits, and we're still coming out of that.
Yeah.
Um, just overall, because we'll get to the product in a second, but it's overall, how's it been for the company dealing with all of that?
Yeah, for us, actually, the pandemic was a very interesting time because, if you think about it, we build technology mostly for industrial workers, so
Okay.
workers who are in warehouses, manufacturing facilities, hospitals. So really think of what it's during the pandemic, we sort of decided to call essential workers or frontline workers.
Oh, yes.
And so really what happened for us is actually was a great time because outside of the sort of the challenges of just living in the remote world, what happened with us was that there just became this spotlight on the workforce that we build technology for, right? Everyone just started appreciating, hey, the guy who delivers my UPS packages is a hero, right? And the nurses that are working are heroes, and the guy who stocks my shelves in the supermarket is just like incredible. And so they became this sort of renewed like appreciation for this workforce, which it's a group of workers that have always been there, right? It's not that we just didn't notice the impact of their work.
Very true. Yes.
And so for us that we're building technology that helps those workers prevent injuries, this renewed sort of appreciation for that workforce actually helped us a lot as a business. And so we found that a lot of our customers were now starting to invest more money in making sure their workers are safe. We started to add, new features around contact tracing, and if you remember all those sorts of things that happened before the vaccine. So, yes, actually, it was actually a very good time for us, and I think just brought a lot of much needed attention to just how important this workforce is for our lifestyle.
Well, that's you said I was transported back a couple of years ago. You're right. It was like whoever was out there. Some of us were at home, working from home. But everybody else who was out there was very important. I'm part of professional organizers place, and so our business kind of shut down too because it was in home. So they had to switch to, if you were movers, you were an essential worker. Again, workers' comp. If you were this, so it's funny how you say you kind of move around. It's like all this could be used. There were a lot of people there that were it was very important. And your product was already there, so that's your guys are ready. Okay, so what was the genesis? What's the product? I know you've done some features on, but what is the product in general?
Yeah, so let me give you a sense of what we do. So right now, when we wanted to reduce injuries, we decided to focus on the injury that's most prevalent and the one that's most costly. So if you look at all the different types of injuries, it ends up being sort of musculoskeletal type injuries, or what is called strain and sprain in the industry. So those injuries, which typically happen because people are using improper biomechanics on the job, they're lifting, they're twisting, they're moving material around. Those injuries are very hard to prevent, because essentially what it takes to prevent them is to train workers in a sustained way to use good body mechanics on the job. And that's just very hard. Yeah. So what typically happens is people will get trained, they'll maybe be more attentive about how they're moving for a week, and then they'll sort of just go back into sort of what are the habits, right? The way you've just moved all your life. Yeah. And so what we did is we developed, I've got it over here. So we developed sort of almost a pager looking device.
Yeah, it was like a pager,
yes. Yeah, you remember the pages, right, James?
Yeah, I do. I do. I had one. Yes.
So what happens is you put this on your belt, and what it's able to do is able to measure your body mechanics in real time. And then whenever it detects what we call a high risk movement. So think of it, what sort of bending at the waist, but not using your legs, or twisting or overextending. If it detects any of these movements, the device vibrates. So it's almost like a real-time coach that's giving you this immediate feedback of like, hey, you just did a movement that could put you at risk of injury. And the interesting thing is that workers, when they get it, it's like, oh, okay. And so they start to become more aware of and then they start to self-correct. So they try to avoid those movements. And then we try to make it fun, so it's not just this vibrating device. So we do things like we rank workers so they can compete against each other. We give them points for wearing it, and then they can change it to swag and things like that. So we almost create a game around being safer. And generally it's usually well received. So what typically happens over time is the number of these high risk movements will go down, and then injury rates go down.
Wow. It's funny because my sister has a smart watch that tells her you have not walked in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, so it's funny now you say that. It was the first time I saw her. She was like, "We're doing something," and beeped at her and was like, "Hey, so I'm gonna say her name, but so and so, you need to walk right now." I was like, "Oops, I didn't walk right now." We laugh about it, but you're right. That's a great idea. So it almost so now the vibration is it strong enough to feel in main situations, like if you're out somewhere and it's lots of loud. I mean, you do really feel it.
Yeah, it's a good question, because we were debating, do we make a noise? Do we do a buzz? And what we ended up is very similar to a text message. So it's like this little vibration, you get it. Okay, I realize, okay, I've just done this movement. And then people slowly start to just internalize when they do high risk movements versus when they don't. And then they start to self-correct. So it takes a little bit of time.
No, because you're right. Because I mean, especially when it comes to bending. and reaching. Those like two things right there alone, I can tell you right there. So I can almost probably imagine a lot of workers' comp are what? Shoulders, backs, knees.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So somebody like me, I'm 6 feet, 200 something pounds. You put I'm a big boy. You put it on. Is there a certain place we got to put it on, or can you place it anywhere on your belt? Is there a certain?
Yeah, so it's usually sort of left side or right side of the belt. So the
Okay,
device figures out, what side it's on and things like that. But
okay,
you can put it anywhere, sort of, towards the side of your body, and yeah, and it will start to work from there. And it's interesting you mentioned sort of consumer wearables, because actually a lot of the inspiration that we got from gamifying it and making it competitive came from that space. So yeah, we studied a lot, sort of the Fitbits and the Apple Watches of the world,
yes.
to really try to get the best out of them.
That's great. So you went from deciding to do this as just like a product-based thing, which you could be just a product-based company. How we have a product and sell it to companies. We decided to get into insurance part of it. So I just kind of figure out where the insurance part come in.
Yeah.
It makes sense and where it's working, but how did that component come in?
Yeah. So honestly, we've been wanting to get insurance for a while, and what we've realized is to get into workers' comp and the structure we've taken to get into workers' comp has been an MGU or an MGA. So to get as an MGA to get in with technology like this, you really have to prove that it's effective. And so we started selling this to large corporations for a couple of reasons. One is because they were the people who wanted to buy it. They're self-insured, they can save money. And we have companies like Iron Mountain and Pepsi, and those are sort of our big customers. And so what we got after having deployed those for a number of years is just the proof that we needed that this could actually affect injuries. So on average, we reduced strain and sprain injury rates by about 55%. And it wasn't really until we had that proof that carriers were sort of willing to take us more seriously in terms of really creating an MGU partnership. And so last year we had 4 years of data, really robust
Okay.
data around the impact of claims. And so Nationwide, who was an early investor actually in the company, they teamed up with us and they allowed us to sort of offer an MGU with the device as included, as for free and part of the workers' comp policy. And really, James, like the thesis that we have is that insurance, instead of just being very transactional, like you have a claim, we pay it, it should give you the tools to prevent the claims from happening in the first place.
Yes.
Because the economics make sense, right? And so we're starting to see that in some personal lines like telematics and like home insurance and stuff, but in the commercial lines we haven't really started to see it yet. And so for us in workers' comp, it made sense that, hey, if we can give you this tech and it reduces your claims, you're going to be on a path for lower premiums. Your workers aren't going to get injured, which in a period of time where it's hard to hire workers, that's a big deal. And for the insurance company, it's a much more profitable policy, right? So in a way, this approach of giving you the tools to prevent injuries benefits everyone in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And from a broker perspective, gives their brokers the opportunity to say, hey, look, here's a new type of product that I can offer, right? And so we've just seen that it's been very well received in this first year that we've been in business.
Wow, it sounds amazing. And again, it's something preventative, which we just don't hear much about about something preventative. It's all about usually it's cleanup. It's usually afterwards. You have products that happen after the fact you get hurt. Not let's help prevent you getting hurt.
Yeah. And like we got a lot of I used to work in the healthcare industry, and in the healthcare industry we saw that transition happen, right? Where it used to be, oh, I just pay you to get to treat diabetes, and now it's like, no, I'm going to give you some tools to prevent diabetes or manage it well.
Yeah.
And so this is sort of is catching up, right? Workers' comp is a little, takes a little longer to see these innovations, but really the approach is I want to stop you from getting hurt, so here's some tools to do that.
But workers' comp it's a huge industry. It's huge. I mean, it crosses everything, crosses every industry, every business. Like it's this huge thing, which we have everything from fraud stuff to real serious workers' comp injuries to everything in between. Like it's a huge industry. I mean,
Yeah.
it crosses everything. It crosses
Yeah.
everything. I mean, it's like it's part of the whole health package. It crosses everything.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good point. And for us, honestly, like this first year has been very successful because really what we're telling, it's a mandatory coverage, right? So we're telling people, hey, instead of just buying it from your run-of-the-mill carrier where you get exactly the same product as everyone else, like give this a chance, try the tech, get on a path to lower premiums. And usually people are willing to do it, especially the folks that are more safety minded are definitely like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to give this a try. And if it doesn't cost me anything extra, like what's the risk?
Yeah.
So we generally see that it's pretty well received, that people are willing to give it a go. And so it's been exciting.
That's exciting, guys. This is exciting. Well, Haytham, thanks for taking your time to talk to us about this product. I'm curious about it. I'm like, I should put it on my show to see what I'm doing at the time. I might be buzzed all the time. Like, Jay's wrong. What's wrong? What's wrong? Like, it's crazy. I'm bending over the wrong way. But I think it's such a great thing. And you are a great example of having an idea in an existing place and actually kind of thinking outside the box, but actually helping the box. I mean, like, you're doing both. It's like it's helping the thing. And so, you scientists, you saw something, and they also took part of your past and brought it into this field, which is very insurance. We can bring all of our experiences into this business. It's very, very true. It's very true.
Yep.
Very true. So Kinetic. So where can they find Kinetic?
Yeah, so if you go to www.kinetic-insurance.com, you can see all the latest and greatest about the things that we're up to.
Yes, I'll put that, of course, in the thing below. Of course, Haytham, thanks for being on the show, of course. Thank you for joining us. And much more success to you. Much more success to you.
James, thanks for the invite and thanks for the conversation. This is great.
So, folks, we're IIABCAL Voices. We give the voice to people who are in our industry, our wonderful industry, all over the place. And you can follow us on all social media platforms, IIABCAL. You can also follow us at IIABCAL.org. And this show is on YouTube on JLJ Media, or you can go to any audio streaming service platform and find it if you want to listen to it while you're at the gym or at work. Make sure you do your job, of course. But if you have background stuff, you can listen to it there from iHeartRadio to Spotify to Google and Apple. It's everywhere. So check it out there. I'm James Lott Jr., and we'll see you next time.